Hi everyone, my name is Della Phillips. I'm an artist as well as I'm known as the Bicycle Lady. How you doing today? I'm doing great. Now let's get the business out of the way. If you find this video enjoyable or you learn something from it or anything like that, please give it a thumbs up. Click on that thumbs up button. That really helps me. It says you like this type of content. As well as consider subscribing. There's no charge for it. And it lets YouTube know that you like this, and it helps me out a lot. At no charge to you as well. And that way I can continue making videos. Today's video, I'm sure you can tell from the title, is going to include watercoloring with me. So I have my supplies out. And it's the next step in acquiring watercolor painting skills, or in my case, regaining those skills. And that includes the 3 basic washes. Now, I used to do that totally without thought, had really no big issues or trouble doing that. However, that's not the case anymore. Since I had a hiatus due to illness, personal things, as well as when I moved a couple of years ago or more, all my watercolor supplies basically disappeared with the movers. So I didn't watercolor. I was been building things back up. Now I've got some supplies back. I'm back into watercolors, as you can see from a couple other videos. So I thought it was high time. Let's build the skills and get back up to that level. One thing you should know about me is always try to be honest. I was just going to come in and just lay down the watch and say, okay, let's practice this further and be quite successful and go on my way. Well, that wasn't the case, as you can see. I did try doing the watch. This is Rose Madder Turner's. It's an economical. They say it's professional, but in many ways I think it's in between. But I could be wrong there. At any rate. And this one here. So I changed paints. And this is M-Gram. I got much more successful with the M-Gram. Still there's some streaking. And then this is a burnt sienna professional grade. And then I stopped. How come I never had this problem before? Well, I worked on 100% cotton arches paper for the most part. Or Sanders washers. Well, that could be one thing. I primarily was on also cold press. Whereas this is the Fabriano Studio hot press, which means it's 25% cotton, the rest is cellulose. So we got two things that could be the problem. With cellulose, watercolor paints, even professional paints, have a tendency to sink in and not flow as much. And student grade watercolors, which Turner is supposed to be professional, or depending on the pigment used, can also not flow that well. Well, I can't right now afford to practice 100% of the time on cotton paper. So I put my thinking cap on. I went, aha! Let me use a flow medium, which is, let me put it here, I don't hurt anything, Oxgall solution. And what I could get locally quickly was a Daler Rowney. Now it's made by Winsor & Newton, Daler Rowney, and others. And there's even synthetic Oxgall. I don't know how well or had experience with it, so I just stuck with the Oxgall solution. And the solution I came up with using is you use the Oxgall. It doesn't tell you amount. There's some instructions on the side, on this one here, that you mix it in with water that you're going to make up your color solution with. How much you use? Well, that depends. Every brand, and possibly even lot, the concentration could change, so that could vary, especially between brands. And it depends on the person using it as well, and what paper they're using it on, and what watercolor paint they're using. I came up with where I'm using around essentially 1/8 of a teaspoon per ounce of water, and then I make up my color solutions. And that did help out a lot. See, here's one here. It is actually pretty flat. I was actually pretty successful with that one. And that's with mixing the Oxgall and using the cellulose paper. Now when I went over and tried the B paper, I was more successful, but I still had some issues. And the B paper is 100% cotton, and it is cold press. See, you can see this one here, it did edge a little bit. So, I went, I really need a lot more practice. And so I went back to my references that I mentioned before when I started this, the complete Essential Watercolorist handbook. I'll go back and check that. And also the other two, the one that says basic and in colors, as well as the other reference book. And I got various things, and also checked on YouTube and other things. Many people, some of them are doing totally wet. Some are doing flat wash, being dry, and then the variated or graduated being wet. And some do both dry or some do both wet. So, I remember when I was painting big paintings and doing some landscapes, I basically put in the sky using a wet technique, and it was variegated or graduated. The flat wash, that was mainly dry. And did I do it at a slant? Yes. I had a 2x4. Well, I'm not using 2x4s right now, but I did have these pucks. And I do like using them. They're called painter's pucks or something like that, I believe, unless the name has changed. And you can actually rest your board here, or you can bring it up here to get taller. Or if you need it taller still, I have some more of these. You would have two at this height, and then you could get it pretty much close to a 45, actually. So I like them. The big thing is I want to keep them in a straight line, because if one's a little forward than the other, I could make one side a little higher than the other. But it's easy when you're using a cutting mat like this. It already has lines, and it's cut in squares, so you can line them up easily. And so I'm going to put the board like that. Now, the person I found who really succinctly went through watercolor washes, the 3 biggies, and then they also had controlling the wash, was a gentleman by the name of, he's an English gentleman, Oliver Pyle. Now, I have 2 links below to his videos. I went through and watched his videos several times, and he's very skilled. Now, the way he paints and his vision on what he's seeing and what he wants to paint, not quite the way I believe I'm going to be painting. But that doesn't make him an excellent watercolor painter with excellent skills, which he is, actually. And watching that video and some others, he actually is. Do I overly thrilled with what he paints? Not really, but it's very skilled. Let's get painting. He showed both dry and wet techniques and gave some pointers, which I think were very good. So please go review that and then come back, and we'll give this a try and see if I can get better at doing this. I'm going to do a dry painting. Do I want it that high? I think so. And let me use, this is Rose Madder from Turner. I've already mixed it up with some Oxgall solution. And the big pointer he used is, well, you have to have, don't use too small of a brush, of course. And he was using 100% cotton paper. The Sanders Waterford, or is it Waterford Sanders? Oh, anyway, and he was using cold press. Now, this is cold press, this is B. But I did mix up plenty of color, so let's get started there. And you want to have enough paint on your brush, but you don't want it sloppy. So let me wipe that. So I got it mixed. Dip it in. Yeah. Okay. Now I'm going to turn this over. I want to make sure. Let's make sure I'm in the picture here. Because I don't want to do it off to the side and you can't see it. So I believe you should have a good view. And let's see how successful I can be. Now this is dry with wet on dry. And the big thing he was saying is you got to get a good bead, because that is critical. And I'm starting to get that. Alright, now he dipped into this paint just about each time. You went over that bead. You want to bring that down. And the big thing is you got to have it beading up. Otherwise, it's not going to work. You're going to get streakiness. So far, I think it's looking decent. I'll let you all be the judge of that. Alright. I think I got plenty of paint there. I don't need to dip it in again. Now, just so you know, I found I got some bead paper that's a 6x9 or towards the end of lockdown, and some of the paper, it looks like the sizing or even the composition, the felting of the paper will make it look splotchy with watercolor. But for practice, that's no big deal. I think it's getting a little dry, so I'm going to dip my paintbrush back into the solution I have. Put this down. Oops, left a white spot. As long as it's wet, you can still go back in, but if it's already started drying and it's damp, you cannot go back in. It's one of the cardinal rules. You cannot take wet paint and paint back into damp. It's going to cause all types of blooms and backgrounds. You just can't do that. It's just not done. So you have to let it, either do it while it's wet, like I corrected there, or, and right now I'm just picking up the extra bead right here. Now I can let it dry just like this, like he did. Some artists just, it's also helpful just to let it dry wet. That way it also helps even it out. I think I was fairly successful doing that. What do you think? There is a tiny bit, which practice will make perfect, as I say. So I do need to keep on practicing it. So I'm going to admit that. Now, the next one is, he did was a gradiated wash, and which was wet on dry. Or, I think what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go ahead and continue the flat wash, but using it as wet on wet. So, let me go ahead and wet my brush here. A little bit of paint in it. That won't hurt. It'll just help you see it on camera. The thing is, you want to make sure it's nice and wet, but not sloppy. And you don't want it damp. You need it wet. And on large paintings, you'll see people use spray bottles. I've done that in the past as well. Or you'll take a large brush on a large painting and put down a layer of water before you start, like a sky or a lake. Mainly used in skies, though, as far as the variegated. So now I got it nice and wet. I have a nice sheen. It's not just damp, it's wet. And let me get to this right away because it will dry up quickly here. Winter and everything. I'm going to put this back up. He did his slanted, so let's do it exactly the way he did it. So I still have plenty. Get that out there. Plenty of color. So let's go ahead and lay down the first line. Now you see it is moving downward much easier than before. Let me even that out a little bit. And you can tell the color's a little bit lighter, primarily because the water is helping to dilute that. Again, you want to keep a good bead, not excessive, where you get a lot of drips like I had at the beginning. Most of the people I've seen lay them flat to help out have been the people using a flat wash. I went back over that at one area, which might be a bit of a no-no. It's good practice to see my mistakes. And overall, I think I did a decent job. You can tell there's a line on the paper here. But overall, you see this, that's not a hair, that's actually a scratch on the paper. And then other people will turn it around and let it blow back the other way too. I think just laying it flat should work nicely. Okay, so now we got the flat washes. It's not absolutely perfect. I'm going to work on that. That's the reason why we're doing these exercises and why I'm showing you what I'm doing to sharpen my skills and get my skills back. That's been dormant for a while. So the next thing is, let's do a gradiated wash. I'm going to use the same color, although I'm going to mix up a little bit more. So I'm going to take that in there. And I got my color here, which is rose madder. I'll make it a little bit darker. Now I get plenty of color. Now I don't need quite as much, because as you could tell from when he did his, he actually slowly mixed lighter colors to help with the painting. He didn't just use the same color all the time. I've seen people not mix. They would just dab off a bit of the color from the brush, then dab in quickly into the water and then mix it on the paper. I had some success doing that. However, let's try it the way that Mr. Pyle showed us. I don't know him at all. I've never met him. I've just seen his work on YouTube. I think he did an excellent, excellent job. So, now we're going to mix a lighter color. And let's go back over somewhat where it's beating it up. Got that a little bit juicy. Seems to be fine. And there's a sheen on it for me, so go back over that. Now, let's lighten it up again. And hope I haven't broken the rule there of letting it dry too much. And just a little bit more. More. To the point there. we're getting a graded wash. Now, I don't have a perfect gradation, as you can see right there, and I can't go back into it. It'll just totally mess things up. That's where I stopped and let it dry a little bit while I was messing around with mixing. So, that's on me. I need to practice this some more. Let's just go back in and see if I try to fix it. We should get blooms is what's going to happen. And I got that down a little bit too far. Anyway, not bad. Needs work. Definitely I need to work on that skill. And maybe you're in the same boat I am, and so maybe it's good as we try this together. At least that's the way I'm going to look at it. Alright, now, again, you can leave it like this. You can tilt it like this. Yeah, I can see a bloom starting to happen there. But that's good practice. Now, let's go back, and again, let's put on some water. Again, you want it nice and wet, but not sloppy wet. And you don't want it just damp where it's just dull. So you want a little bit of a sheen, but not so sloppy wet. Or sopping wet, as some people would say. Let's make sure we've got a nice even coverage, which I believe we do. Also with washes, that you want to use the biggest brush you want. But since I just recently, as you probably tell in my restocking video, I just got this Raphael. And since Mr. Pyle used a smaller brush the way I'm using it, I thought it'd be good to try using it that way as well. So I still have plenty of paint here, and I'm going to use it. So let me get a nice dark. And here we're going to have the water to help us. You may not have to mix it up as much. But we still need a good bead. Well, yeah, I'm doing a little bit better this way, but then again, that's the way I used to do graded washes. So some of it's coming back. You can still need, I need to practice on this. Get better at it. And I think this is a pretty darn good success. What do you think? I like that. I think I did well. The first one kind of gave me some practice, and I did go back in and smooth out an area that was getting a little out of hand. But I did it while it was still wet, and I could still grade and didn't stop. Much better, much better. This is much better than the first. This I would still need some work on. I need work on it either way, but I'm glad I'm starting to get some success. There's just a slight variance there. This is really nice. So I'm happier now that I'm seeing it's not just me. You got to practice this technique and have the right materials, or use a solution that helps you with the materials you have. In other words, know your paints, know how they flow, and on what paper, and practice it. Like they say, practice, practice, practice. So I was just tossing over there a paper towel I've been dabbing on. And let me make sure my brush is pretty clean. Alright, now let's try the third one that he did. Now I have two colors. I have an indigo, a blue from Turner. Let me mix that up here for a minute. And then I'm going to use the rose madder as well. The other thing is I'm going to take this out here. All right. Now, so let's do the dry variegated, or the two colors. And we're going to do it dry. So the first color, let's just stay with the rose madder. We'll lay down. And let's just do it basically the way he did it. Which seems to be, like I said, he is quite obviously a very skilled watercolorist. Even though, you know, his paintings are nice, I'm not a real big fan of what he's painting. But his skills, yeah. I think he's very, very skilled. And I think we're very lucky to have him doing videos. Okay. Now, let me do just a little bit more. Have a bit of a band there. Now some will put the color right in here on the light, very dark, and then get lighter. I'm going to go from the bottom up. Now, I believe the way he did it, Mr. Pyle, is that he took his color, made a very light version, and he put in a light version over the top. And then he came back in with a little bit more of his color, like what I'm doing here, and gradually got the color much darker. You can do it that way. Let me get up the extra color here. Which isn't bad. I did a decent job, I think. Or basically what I used to do is just do a variegated wash, half one color on one side and then turn it upside and do it the other way. I do have some streaking, again, that's similar to this issue here I need to practice on, but I don't think that's bad. That's a good thing. A good solid start. Now, the way I mainly did is with it pre-moistened. So let's pre-moisten the paper. Again, don't make it sloppy. You want to see a sheen, not dull, because dull means it's damp and it's already started drying up and soaking in. But you want it evenly coated with water, which it is. I don't know if you can see the sheen on it. There's a dull place there. Let me just put that down. So now I'm going to go in and go in with my rose madder again. I'm going to put that in. And I'm getting a little bit better at knowing how much paint I need to have on my brush. And this is there. I got it about where I want it. This time, I'm not going to go the way he did it. I'm going to do it the way I used to do it. which is, let me take the color. We're the darkest. And I am going to gradate it into the other color. Go back over all that. I think I got some drawing that went on. Okay. So at least you can see that I don't do everything perfect. I think you can tell that from my other watercolor videos. And this is something I need to practice. And if you're following along with me and developing your skills, this may be an exercise you want to practice as well. That's it for today. I'm going to continue practicing these three main washes. I'm going to go back and again watch controlling washes as well from Mr. Pyle, Oliver Pyle. I have the links to his 2 videos in the description below, along with the names of the watercolor books I'm referencing along the way, primarily in doing these exercises and working on regaining my watercolor skills and watercolor painting so I can paint things from my artist's eye and what I'm seeing the way I want to see them and not be frustrated. If you like this video, again, please give it a thumbs up, as well consider subscribing. That really helps me out with YouTube. It tells them that you want to see more of this content, and it also helps me so I can continue to make videos. Take care. Until next time, you have a great day.